Wario's Buzzer Beater is one of the most interesting minigames in Super Mario Party Jamboree, and this is due to the minigame having a whopping 10 different micro minigames within it. These 10 are: which way to the exit, which has more tile flip minigame, which has more fuzzy counting minigame, which one is the longest Piranha Creeper minigame and its counterpart, which one is the shortest, which one is different, where will he stop, which is the missing piece, can you dodge the bullet bills, and how many coins are there? Today, I'll be going over these minigames and the best tactics to win each of them, as well as one more trick that you can use that can practically guarantee a win against even master CPUs. Before I start though, I did notice something I found very interesting while researching this minigame. That is that each micro minigame can only show up on certain rounds. For example, which way to the exit can only appear on rounds 1, 6, and 9, while can you dodge the bullet bills only shows up on rounds 2 and 9. There are probably a few that I missed. Getting data for this game is more time consuming than others since I can only get a single data point for any given round about once every 3 minutes. But I'll go through where each micro minigame appeared as I get to them. Anyways, let's go through them one at a time.
Start!
First is which way to the exit, where Wario stands in the middle of the maze and you must choose the route, which guides him out. Like I said before, this one is most likely to appear as the first or 9th minigame, but can sometimes be the 6th as well. Top left is X, top right is A, bottom left is Y, and bottom right is B. Now this one is very interesting because there are only 4 possible combinations that this maze can be in. This makes it very easy to know which button to press before you are even able to choose a route. When you first start, the camera is zoomed in all the way. So, in the box where Wario starts, if the 2 paths are top left and bottom right, the exit will be in the top left, so press X. If the paths are also on the top left and bottom right, but the exit for the bottom right wall is on the right side instead of the bottom, then it is the top right exit, so press A. If the paths are both on the right side, then the exit will always be on the bottom left, so Y. And if the paths are on the top right and bottom left, then the exit will be in the bottom right, so press B. It might take some practice to get it right, so I recommend saving this screen here until you can easily remember which route is which. Next is which has more tile flip edition. In this minigame there are 10 tiles and behind them is a picture. Choose which picture shows up more to win. There is no special order to the tiles and seem to be completely random. What isn't completely random, however, is how many of each picture will appear. One picture will appear 4 times, one will 3 times, one will twice, and the last one will appear just once. If you see a picture show up 4 times, then you know for certain that is the one to choose. Unfortunately, this game has a very deliberate habit of flipping all but one tile until the 5-second mark. And usually it's the one tile you need to see to know which picture there are more of. If you notice a single tile is not being flipped, you can focus on that specific tile and select whatever pops up. Also, if you are falling behind and need to play a bit more risky, you can wait until you see 3 of any picture and guess that one. You will have a 50-50 chance of getting the right answer. The last thing to note is to not let this minigame blindside you. I've seen this minigame end on the second flip before even all the tiles were turned. This usually happens in the earlier rounds. Next is which has more fuzzy edition. This one is most likely to appear as the 7th and sometimes the 10th round, but I've also seen it on the 3rd and 5th round, albeit rarely. In this one, you have 4 lines of fuzzies and must choose which line has the most. In early matches, you usually just get 4 to 6 fuzzies per line, so it's easy to count. But in later rounds, there's just no chance to count them. The fuzzies overlap, and the difference between right and wrong choices can be just a single fuzzy. Instead, just glance at the 4 lines and see which line appears to be more solid and has less gaps. That is most likely the correct answer. It's also best to sit just a little further away from the screen for this. Then we have which one is the longest and which one is the shortest, which we will combine together since they are essentially the same minigame. These are both most likely to appear in round 4 and can sometimes appear in round 2 or 1. Now, before the minigame even starts, before you even know what the objective is, you can already see the Piranha creepers. This makes it very easy to tell which one is the longest and the shortest. There are actually only two variations of the layout for this minigame. First, you have this one, where the Piranha creeper is cut down the middle and nearly touches the other corner. Then you have this one here, where the same creeper cuts down the middle, but gets stopped early. Those are your only two variations, but they might flip the screen either vertically, horizontally, or both to throw you off. Just know that in the first variation, when the Piranha creeper nearly touches the opposite corner, that is the longest. And the Piranha creeper that is completely boxed in by the longest one is the shortest. In the other variation, where the Piranha creeper gets cut short, the longest is the one that starts in the corner and makes this U shape. Not to be mistaken for the other U-shaped creeper that starts near the middle of the screen. The shortest for this variation is in the complete opposite corner, making an S shape. You can even predict what button you need to press very easily. The Piranha creeper furthest left will be Y, the furthest right will be A, then of the remaining two, the one furthest up is X, and the one at the bottom is B. Which one is different is a very simple minigame, but I can see some people having trouble with it. This comes up often in the first half, but I have never seen it past round 6. 4 pictures spin rapidly in a circle, causing the images to blur. You have to choose the one that is different. The trick to this is to not focus on any one picture in particular, instead watching all 4 at the same time. In fact, I find standing further away helps a lot with this minigame. Honestly, there's not much else to this micro minigame. If you're still having trouble with it, I recommend waiting till the end of this video to see what that final trick is, because it completely destroys this minigame. Next we have Where Will He Stop?, where Wario rolls a dice block and you have to choose which space you will land on. I have seen this on rounds 3, 6, 7, and 8, but not once anywhere else. You have 9 spaces to choose from, and the dice block can only roll between 2 and 9, meaning no matter what, the first space will not be landed on. In fact, it is never even an option. The options you can choose from will always have a 1 space buffer between them, meaning your choices will either be 2, 4, 6, and 8, or it'll be 3, 5, 7, and 9. Your button presses, from left to right, will be Y, X, B, and A. If you remember this, then you will never have to look at the spaces. If the number is 2 or 3, press Y. 4 or 5, press X. 6 or 7, press B, and 8 or 9, press A. You do have to be quick with this minigame though, as the computers can respawn very quickly. Which is the missing piece can be tricky if you get unlucky. You start with an image missing a piece, and have to pick a piece from the 4 at the bottom to place in the slot. There are 4 possible images, and the missing piece can either be on the top, bottom, left, or right. If it is left or right, the game is relatively easy. When the head is missing, it can be a bit trickier, and when the feet are missing, it is especially hard. Starting with the left and right, these are very easy because even when the left or right side is cut, there is still enough arm or leg to give you a good idea what pose he is in. For example, this arm is flexing down, so it is clearly option 3. One problem that may come up is that in 2 images, the left arm is flexing up. If that's the case, then look at the stomach. One of the images has much more belly exposed in the piece than the other. There are many tells for each of these, but the problem is you have very little time to choose. I take a glance at each of the pieces and make an educated guess based on that. I get this one right about 75% of the time. Next we have Can You Dodge the Bullet Bills? This one really needs no guide. It is the rarest minigame, only sometimes appearing on the 2nd and 9th rounds. You have plenty of time to look before the 4 options even show, and the buttons you need to press are very intuitive. If 2 bullet bill blasters are touching each other, which one pair almost always is, then go in the direction that they aren't. The only trick to this minigame is to be the first one to choose correctly. Even the CPUs can answer this one fast. The best way to be the first is to just mash the correct button. There really isn't much else to this minigame. And last is how many coins are there? This is the hardest micro minigame out of the bunch, and it is the most common. It is the most likely minigame to appear on the last round, worth double points, and can also appear on rounds 4, 8, and 9. There are 2 variations, the one where the coins are static and do not move, and the one where the coins spin in a circle. The one where the coins don't move is, as you'd expect, far easier. Still, neither game is easy. The CPUs can choose much faster than you can count, and it is very easy to double count on the moving coins variant. Even after researching it, I still usually get a 50-50 chance of getting it right. While editing, I did notice that it was much easier to count on my monitor as to oppose my TV. And this may just be my imagination, but I had an easier time counting on my Switch when it was in handheld mode. Maybe try this minigame on different screens and see which works best for you. Fortunately, there is one trick, really an exploit, that you can do that works with every one of these micro minigames. Really, it works with all minigames, but works especially well for this one. So, in older Mario parties, you could pause the game in the middle of the minigame, and you could still see the minigame. This allowed you to do really precise moves that effectively cheat most minigames. To stop this exploit, they put a splash screen whenever you'd pause so you couldn't look at the game. But now, if you pause, there is a moment where the screen is frozen, so you can get your bearings before playing again. This lasts a whole half second. So what you can do is spam the pause button so you have more time to look at the game before deciding. This makes playing with CPUs trivial. This effectively doubles the amount of time you have before the CPUs can make a choice, and will stop the spinning coins entirely. Every micro minigame is affected by this, making them all very easy. Especially the micro minigame, which one is different? All of the spinning pictures during this minigame just stop. Every single micro minigame is made simple by doing this. Now, should you? Hey, I'm not gonna judge, but unless you want to ruin some friendships and maybe take a trip to the hospital, I don't recommend trying this with real people.
Finish!